And he had it about right. We worked very hard on this conference 10 years ago. And everything needs to be said about what's been done has been said. And I'm sort of an afterthought in the sense that I'm the only person who is speaking today who cannot do a single thing to help him. It's sort of sad, that's the way it is. However, I know someone who can. I just want to make a couple of points. First of all, we did have 4 cabinet members and a lot of other agency heads here that day with Al Gore and me. And we were taken out onto the lake and we saw the infamous white plate test, and we saw that we could only see it from about 69 or 70 feet. And I knew then that there were only 2 natural blue water lakes left in the entire world. I first came here in 1971 when I was a very young man in law school, and my not yet wife, but then girlfriend Hillary was working in Northern California. And I went out to see her, and we took a weekend. She couldn't get much time off from work, but we went first to Yosemite, and then we came here. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. When I became president, I thought one of my major responsibilities was to care for our precious natural gifts. We brought the wolves back and restored the bison population after it was almost decimated in Yellowstone. Stopped the gold mine there. Grand Staircase Escalante in Utah. We protected the coral reefs in northern Wyoming. We started the major restoration project of the Florida Everglades, which has continued, and I'm grateful to the President and the administration for that. We set aside all those roadless acres, which the Audubon Society said was the most important conservation move in 40 years, but Tahoe was special because it is a unique place on Earth. And when you have a place like this, it's not just for you and your children and your grandchildren, it's for everybody who might ever see it or just read about it. You really, all of you who live here, carry the responsibility to make the wisest and best use of this wonderful treasure for the whole world. Not much more than a week ago, I was on my annual trip to Africa with my foundation. I have AIDS projects, development projects, climate change projects there. And I always try to go around Mr. Mandela's birthday, just had his 89th birthday. So we were over there, and then after that, all my life when I've gone there, I've had to work, and since I was president. So this time I took an extra day, and I went to the Ngorongoro crater, where most people believe the first human being stood up on the savannah about 150,000 years ago. It's truly a holy experience to stand in it and realize it was a volcano that blew up 1 million to 1.5 million years ago, and the ash settled back down in that crater and in what became the Serengeti Plain between Kenya and Tanzania. And I thought about what a responsibility. In that poor country, they need every resource to be developed they can. Their per capita income is barely $1 a day, but they have set aside 1/3 of their country not to be developed because they think they owe the world the preservation of the crater. And so do we owe the world the preservation of Lake Tahoe. By preserving places like Lake Tahoe, you will create economic opportunity. So I ask you to think about both things. Number one, you owe it to yourselves, your neighbors, and the world to preserve it. Number two, you have given us a model for how we ought to solve all of our problems. Number three, you are at the epicenter of both the major environmental crises, climate change and resource depletion. And finally, if we follow your model, we will meet the crises by not shrinking our children's economic prospects, but by creating an enormous boom. All these we can do if we get our country back in the solutions business and if we do it together. Thank you, and God bless you.